Hello and welcome to Opening Bars. Desperado is a term popularly defined as a person who is either a bold or desperate outlaw, especially of the American frontier, or someone who is reckless or even potentially criminal. The musical group The Eagles, at one time it has been reported, may have been attracted to this notion, in a musical sense, of identifying with being outlaw rockers. However that may be, their second album, entitled Desperado, was in many ways their most ambitious and the one that is most closely aligned to that of the song cycle format. It has its inspiration in the story of the Doolin-Dalton bank robbery gang of the 19th century and has a distinctly American Western cowboy sensibility fused with elements of rock music. Its title track, the one we're going to look at here, is one of their best-known ballads. Linda Ronstadt too recorded this song and released a version on her album Don't Cry Now. Don Henley is quoted as saying, "I was extremely flattered that Linda recorded Desperado. It was really her that popularized the song. Her version was very poignant and beautiful." Let's look at a harmonic analysis. Here we have a piano grand staff with the treble clef for the right hand and a bass clef for the left hand. The key signature has 1 sharp, and there's also a time signature of 4/4. The harmony is straightforward. The first measure is all 1, G major, with the added F natural, which turns that chord into the dominant 7th of the subsequent C major chord. This 4 chord in measure 2 in the major is then transformed into the minor halfway through the measure. In the next bar, the melodic sentiment is recapitulated in the tonic, but it migrates to the relative E minor, and finally moves to the 5/7 of 5 in measure 4, which leads predictably to D major, which is the dominant of G major. It's notable that this 5/7 doesn't have a representative third, but if you try it with both the major and minor varieties, it is clearly in want of a C sharp here. The notes in blue are non-chord tones, and you can see how they are strategically placed. In measure 1 and measure 2, they appear on the and of beat 2 as a syncopation which adds musical tension, to be released back into the tonality of the measure. In measure 3, the E natural of that syncopation is actually within the structure of the E minor chord. It mimics the rhythmic motif, which sets up a specific expectation in the listener, but modifies the impact by moderating the tension, which is awesome. Only to add that tension back as the B natural sus2 on beat 1 of measure 4. The rhythmic motifs are consistent. In the left hand, a dotted quarter plus 1/8 tied to a whole note. The right hand has very distinctive arpeggiated 1/8 notes tied between beats 2 and 3. There's really nothing remarkable here, although a word of caution about not rushing into the syncopation when you play this. Now that you know the notes, you can concentrate on advancing specific piano techniques. One aspect of your practice you can work on is to analyze your pedaling. I know I concentrate on this repeatedly throughout these online lessons, but it is truly one of the most underexamined elements of piano performance for beginners, and yet it's critical to expressing your understanding and rendering of the music. I'll play it two ways now, one with the damper pedal changed every half measure, and then how I like to perform it. Notice where exactly I choose to depress the damper pedal, and also notice where I release. My fingers do most of the work of sustaining the selected notes. Pay attention to measure 4 in particular. Notice that I don't engage the sustain pedal for the first half of the bar, but make sure you hang on to the G with your thumb for the full quarter. So I'll play both versions now, one right after the other. Here we go. Try this exercise for yourself and really listen to the sonic result from your particular instrument. And just for interest's sake, let's also look and listen to Linda Ronstadt's studio album version. In her rendition, you can hear how the texture is much thicker, especially with those left-hand triads below middle C, but the harmonic movement is clearly the same as the original. The tonic is firmly established in measure 1, moving to the subdominant in measure 2, but keeping the B as a pedal point to create a nice inverted feel. Then moving from 1 to the minor 6 in measure 3 as in the original, but using a lovely passing 5-6 chord with a sus4 to get there. And then setting up the cadence on that secondary dominant 5-7 of 5 in measure 4 to a very beautifully voiced F-sharp 7 to prepare for the return to the tonic. I also really like that descending internal line, the C-sharp, B, A, G-sharp, G natural, F-sharp. You can really hear how that A, G-sharp, G natural in particular is emphasized in her recording. This version also dispenses with the 8th note pseudo-arpeggiation, opting instead for a more direct pop music quarter note chord style, which is what appears in the accompaniment in the verses and chorus. Other artists have recorded this song as well, including Kenny Rogers, the Carpenters, Bonnie Raitt, and Ringo Starr. You should have a listen to their covers as well, for you will always gain a deeper understanding and appreciation for a song once you have heard how others have treated it. I hope you enjoyed your lesson today. Remember, don't just play notes. Make music. Until next time, thanks for listening.